Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Again, I feel like every time I make a video, I always have to apologize for the inconsistency. But life's been crazy. January was not the start we wanted to 2024, but it's all right. We're getting through it. Made some changes, came to Utah, so I just moved here. And you might notice some more appealing decor in the background thanks to some roommates. It was not my doing. So I've had a couple people ask me about doing a video on this, and so that's why I'm doing it, but it's pretty much how to get the new iPhone 15 Pro for free. And it's something that I actually needed at the end of last year. My iPhone 13 Pro Max actually broke the glass on the back of that camera, which was really unfortunate because it's basically like buying a new phone to replace the glass. And so I was like, I gotta find a way to get an iPhone like somewhat cheap or discounted. And I was like, it'd be awesome if I could get the new iPhone 15 Pro for, free or significantly cheap. And luckily I did find a way to do that. So that's what we're going to kind of go over today. I hope that maybe it'll help someone out there who needs a new phone or is interested in the new iPhone 15. But regardless, let's get into it. So just a brief overview of the steps here. So first, you're going to want to activate any Rakuten cash back on either Verizon or AT&T. Two, you're then going to order the iPhone 15 Pro with a new line of service from either Verizon or AT&T. There are a couple other carriers that actually you can use as well, but those are probably going to be the two most common ones, and we'll get into that a little bit later. Next, you're going to sign up for the cheapest Verizon plan, and I believe the cheapest plan that Verizon has for just one line is like $60 a month. And then after that, you're going to pay for the Verizon service and the device payment for a total of 90 days minimum. And that's because that's the requirement that is needed in order to qualify for the keep and switch promotion, which is what we're talking about here. I guess I should have mentioned that. I don't think I did, but we are talking about the keep and switch $800 promotion that T-Mobile is offering. So in order to qualify, you have to be there 90 days with the other carrier. And then after that 90 days, you're going to port that number over to T-Mobile and then submit the documentation that they require for the Keep and Switch program. And we'll touch on that in some more detail later on as well. And you're going to pick the cheapest plan at T-Mobile as well. And that's going to be around a $50 a month plan I think they have for one line. And then after that, you're going to stay with T-Mobile for 1 month until they pay you out with that $800 prepaid card that will come through the form of a text. Then you'll transfer that money into your account, and then from that, you can cancel T-Mobile and begin using your new iPhone 15 Pro, okay? So that's just a quick overview of the steps, the process on how you take advantage of this program that T-Mobile has. So let's just go over a few important things to note, okay? So first, I think we need to touch on carriers, right? So there's a list of a few carriers that qualify for this promotion. The two most obvious and biggest ones out there are going to be Verizon and AT&T. However, with Verizon, the benefit using Verizon is that you actually get your device unlocked automatically by Verizon after you hit that 90-day mark. Whereas if you go with AT&T, they're actually going to make you pay off the device, I believe, before they'll unlock it for you. So it just adds like another extra step in that process. So kind of up to you which route you want to go, but either way, I decided to go with Verizon just because I didn't have to worry about any extra steps. So that's what I did. I went with Verizon. So that's kind of the first thing I wanted to point out to you guys when it comes to the carriers. Also, please note that like most MVNOs, so like your Mint or your Boost Mobile, any of those like type of providers and carriers, they are actually not going to qualify for the keep and switch. So if you do have that, you're more than likely going to just want to set up a whole new account, a new line on maybe a phone number that you're not going to use or you don't care about. And I'll kind of share that because that's what I had to do, and that was my data point. So we'll get into that. But just know that those carriers don't really qualify for the program. Another thing to note here is that only certain phones qualify, and you can find that on the Keep and Switch. I'll actually throw it up here on the screen for a minute so that you can kind of see which ones, as of today, qualify. You don't have to do an iPhone 15 Pro, so if you actually did want to like take advantage and potentially make money on this deal, you could go for like, an iPhone 13, 14, or a different phone that is offered on there. So be sure to check that out. Another note, important requirement for this is that you can only do this once every 2 years from the date that you've been paid out from the prepaid card by T-Mobile. So you can't do this every year, unfortunately, but you can do it up to 5 lines. So if you've got a family of 5, you could actually do new iPhone 15 Pros for the whole family and get $800 back on each one of those. So just know that you can't do it every year, but once every 2 years, and you can do it up to 5 lines. The next thing I wanted to point out as well is that T-Mobile, this is a big risk and one that I was willing to take just because I did need a new iPhone, but please know that this is a program that does not have a list date or an end date rather listed. So they could end this tomorrow, they could end it today, they could end it in a year. It has been around for a couple years now, so like more than likely they're going to keep it around, but take that information and gamble at your own risk. And then lastly, I'll share this in my data point as well, but you may actually need to go to T-Mobile and have the service set up in store. So if you lived in a rural area like I did, when I was doing this deal, I lived in Wyoming at the time, and we don't have T-Mobile up there. Like, it's pretty much Verizon and that's it. So the closest T-Mobile to me was 2.5 hours away, and I did actually have to go and open up my line of service with them in person. And luckily I was going to see friends anyways, so it kind of worked out. But just know that that is something to consider depending on your location and how much risk you want to take. So with that said, I think we've kind of hit most of the main points on the offer and the deal. So let's get into the data point for me. So I ended up doing this right before the holidays because sometimes this promotional offer actually does get increased from $800 to $1,000. At least in previous years, that's what T-Mobile has done with the Keep and Switch promotion. And so I was trying to time this so that I could get the new iPhone 15 Pro and potentially be taking advantage of a $1,000 offer compared to an $800 offer. Sadly, that was not the case this year. They did not raise it at any point to $1,000. So I ended up only getting $800, but that is something to think about if you're not in like a super rush for a new phone, or if it's something that you want to plan on later down the road. And let's say this is around later at the end of the year, you could potentially get the next new iPhone and try to time it around that Black Friday, Thanksgiving, Christmas, the holidays, and see if they raise it to $1,000. So just a little side note there. Let me just pull this up. So we'll kind of go into the charges, and unfortunately I wasn't really like thinking about making a video on this for some reason, and so I don't have like any of my statements or anything, and I can't actually get them after you close your account, at least with Verizon, so it's really dumb. So I can't break it down into like as much detail as I'd like to, but I do have the charges and what I paid, and so I'll just kind of tell you what I did, and maybe you can pull out some nuggets and tips along the way to take advantage of this deal. So I started in October. That was my first, I actually did the pre-order. I set it up the very first day that pre-orders for the new iPhone 15 Pro were available to kind of start that 90-day clock with Verizon. So little backstory, I don't have like my own, I use Verizon, but I don't have my own account. I'm on like a family plan. And so being under my dad's name, I didn't want to take the risk of like having to have him be the one that went to the store and had to do the keep and switch promo under his name. And so I just set it up like a whole new account and a brand new line with a new phone number that I didn't use or care about. So I actually had this phone sitting around with some different random number that they gave me for the 3 months that I had to wait for it. And that's just what I had to do. So you may be in a different situation where you're already at Verizon or already at AT&T, and maybe you just got this iPhone for Christmas, so you have a device payment plan set up already. And so you could actually just take your current phone and swap it over to T-Mobile instead of having to set up a whole new line with Verizon and so on and so forth. As long as you have the 90 days history with the phone at Verizon or AT&T, you can just switch it over to T-Mobile, no problem. So that's just what I had to do though, so a little bit unique. Anyway, I set that up in October and had to pay for October, November, and December. And I paid $118.43 in October, $67.72 in November, and $101.47 in December. The reason it was lower in November is because, and this is a little, side tip or trick for you, you can actually go to Verizon customer service after you set up the new line, if that's what you end up doing, and you can message them and ask them to waive the activation fee, which I think is $30 or $35. So that's what I ended up doing, and they did honor that, and so my bill was much lower in November because of that. They waived it on the next bill. They just gave me a credit for it. So something to keep note of there. Also in October, as I mentioned on the steps in the beginning, you can check Rakuten to see if there's any offers. Rakuten is a cash back portal. There's a couple others that you can try too. But Rakuten had a $75 cash back offer if you opened a new line of service with Verizon. And so that's what I did, and I was able to get $75 back off of that $118 that first month. So that's kind of where we're at with Verizon. In December, I finally hit that 90-day mark where I could then switch over to T-Mobile. So that's what I did. Like I said, I tried to do this all online, and it should have worked, and I know that it's worked for other people online. But for some reason, when I was going through everything and trying to set up a new line of service with T-Mobile and port my number over from Verizon, for whatever reason, they could not verify my identity. And I don't know why that was such an issue, but I tried like 2 or 3 times, and I was like, all right, screw it. I'm just going to go into the store and get it done. And so that's what I ended up doing in December. I drove down. I was going to see friends anyways, so it honestly wasn't that big of a deal, just kind of like annoying and something to be aware of. It could happen to you as well. So anyways, I went down. I quickly got my number ported over same day to T-Mobile, and I had to set up a new plan. So I just picked the cheapest plan, which was like $60 a month, and you're going to pay that T-Mobile service for 1 month or until at least you get the that $800 from them for the keep and switch promotion. So I set it up, ported my number over, everything was great, and then I paid $69.83 in December for the T-Mobile service. And so at that point, it took me about 2 weeks, but I did get the text from T-Mobile saying that my $800 had been approved. And so then I just took that and went ahead and transferred it over to my bank account. And from there was able to then set this phone up. After I canceled it with T-Mobile, I could set it up with Verizon with my normal number that I was using on my other phone. So just to backtrack a little bit though, you do have to pay off the Verizon device. You don't have to pay it off to switch it over though. They basically give you like a one billing cycle period to pay it off, and then they send you a bill for it. So I went ahead and paid it off. I owed $977.60 that I had remaining on there. for the iPhone 15 Pro. So I made that payment, and then I also didn't pay attention, and this is kind of on me, but if you do pay attention to your billing cycles and dates, should line up so you don't have to pay for 4 months, but because life was crazy at the time, beginning of January, I wasn't paying attention, and I ended up having to pay another month of service and device payment for Verizon. So I paid another $101.47 in January. So mistake on me, not perfect. But anyway, that is the data point. Total cost came out to $1,436.52. So that's for the phone and then your service. So not bad. Just to review the credits now. So with the credits, you have the Rakuten cashback that I mentioned. That was $75. You have the T-Mobile Keep and Switch for $800. And then I did actually sell my iPhone 13 Pro Max, believe it or not, with a broken camera for $380. And I probably, honestly, definitely could have got more if the camera hadn't been broken. And I probably would have ended up getting this phone for free, if not maybe making like a little bit of profit. But all in all, with the broken phone after selling it, I got back $1,255. So that brings my total cost out of pocket to $181.52 for the new iPhone 15 Pro. Not too bad when you're considering that this is a $1,200 phone. And I think if you can just snowball it every 2 years, you know, the value of this, even if I sold it at, you know, $500 or $600, half of what I paid for it, you know, I think every 2 years you could upgrade to the newest and greatest phone and probably make a little bit of cash doing it, so long that T-Mobile keeps their keep and switch program around. So pretty awesome deal. I think it's worth doing. Obviously there are some risks involved, but the way I saw it was I needed a new phone anyways. So whether I was going to go out and buy it for $1,200 or set up a device payment plan, either way, I was going to get the new iPhone. And so it was worth the risk to me to pay potentially a couple $100 more if they had canceled the T-Mobile Keep and Switch program. And so that was a risk I was willing to take, and it ended up paying off. So I hope it pays off for you guys. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. I'd be happy to respond to them. And as always, guys, we'll be back with another great video, hopefully sooner than a month away. Thanks.